Binatic Sports. My name is Brian, and I'm very super excited to be with you back again with another video. Of course, we had games from the World Cup qualifying, and of course, around the world, nations managed to really play their games. But here in Africa, our biggest concern is Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Three nations that we are so much interested to see perform, especially on the world stage. Taifa Stars of Tanzania managed to salvage a draw against Congo. A very good game that they played. They managed to really fight so hard. Uganda managed to win their game 4-0 against a Gambia side, but it wasn't all the same. That is at the Harambee Stars of Kenya. They lost their game against the Gambia side, and I'm here to tell you three reasons that I think were very responsible for them losing their game. The key takeaways from the game, of course, you can say first of all, their defense was not up to the standards. They had a lot of defensive mistakes that were very decisive. They conceded 3 goals inside 40 minutes due to poor marking and weak handling of transitions. And of course, the central pairing of Sylvester Owino as well as Coins Sijeje lacked cohesion and, of course, were caught so flat footed on so many occasions, which led to some of the goals, including the corner that they conceded in there. So, usually countries like Gambia, their style of football is you need to be very careful, especially when you do your attacking, when you try to press them or when you try to really find a way to score the goals, because when they get you on attack, they get you on a counter attack. And that process of transiting from attacking to defending is what they really capitalize on. And we saw it in the game. And that is how they managed to really come out and get the better of Kenya. So I think Benny McCarthy should really look at that and so much concentrate on how his teams really recover from that. And of course, the fullbacks as well, Abdul Omar as well as Rooney Onyango, were very stretched in that game. If you watch the game, you would see that Mr. Yakumba Minte was so much stressing them, making them go wide, and it was really, really very tough for them on the day. And that is something that they need to learn. How do they really silence such players? Minte is very talented. You've seen him even, I think, in is it Brighton? Yes, you've seen him in Brighton, and you know exactly what he can do in his attacking wing position. And it really, 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 it was so much of them being stretched. And that is one of the reasons that I think they didn't have enough time to really concentrate even on attacking, because usually now these days modern football requires the people that are fullbacks to really also contribute to attack. So Kenya in one way or another could not do 100% a full attack because they had to do the defensive bit a little bit in there. And I thought the job was so much supposed to be of the midfield to really cover them and do those defensive duties in there. You would notice even in that actual game, you would see that after conceding, I think the first goal, instead of keeping up their composure and try to dictate a lot of their play, they managed to rush the ball. And in moments like that, I saw one of the commentators who was commentating the game between Uganda and Mozambique, and he was warning the Mozambique guys that usually one of the few things that you need to really look at and be very careful about, especially in such a game when you're playing away from home. You need to be very careful when you are conceding the first goal. When you concede the first goal, usually, if you're not settled, the second goal usually comes in very quickly because you're unsettled. You now are changing your game plan, and the experience sometimes of the players really works against them, because some players are not experienced to a point that they would relax and really want to compose themselves and control the game. So that is how you lose the game, because 1 becomes 2 and 2 becomes 3, just like you see in the game that Kenya played. And the midfield itself, that is another issue that I noticed in that game. It was missing a lot of creativity. And you would see that Richard Odada and Timothy Ouma failed to control the tempo and link to the defensive as well as the attack in that sense. So if you don't do that, you really, really are bound to really play on the tempo of a team like Gambia. They play very fast football. They play a lot of good transitional football. So if you don't control the tempo, then you're going to be playing to their turns. I noticed that in the game between Uganda and Mozambique as well. I'm sorry for making that comparison, but I noticed one of the reasons why Uganda won that game comfortably. They really understood the style play of Mozambique. Mozambique is a Portuguese originated team, and their style of play, most of their players play in Portugal. Their style of play is more of Portugal. It's a fast game, transition game. They really they use the midfield, they use the wingers very well. So you need to just learn how to calm down that ball and play to your tempo, because if you play the fast ball always, they'll really do the interceptions and they'll catch you really having spaces in your defense. So Uganda learned that. Khalid Awucho being in that midfield for me really was so much instrumental, because he really controlled that tempo, cooled down that ball. They passed it between the defenders, Nestor Bita, as well as Cabratosi, and they really managed to control the game according to their own style of play. And that is what Kenya really needed in there. And of course, you all know that in that game still, Gambia was able to block that is the central areas, forcing Kenya to go wider, which is a little bit more predictable, because they know when you go wider, then all you need to do is you need to cross in the ball. So that happened repeatedly in the game, and I realized that that was one of the reasons that Kenya really was really facing in that game. Then the other side is that Michael Olunga in that midfield, he was not in any way helping out in the attacking flair, because he had to drop down a little bit, drop back, get the ball, try to see that things happen in that game. And to me, that was one of the reasons why it was not really happening, especially for the strikers. So they could not get the ball, because Michael Olunga had to come deep, try to get the ball, try to control the pace, and it was something that really happened there. So Kenya lost this game because they are now, with the way things are happening, they lack that midfield maestro who can control the ball, get that ball, play it around, control the tempo, pass it when it's there's need be, go direct into that midfield, try to make errors in any opposition team. So I think they really lack that, and it's now in modern football, it's one of the things that we really want to see, players that hold that ball and try to make things work. We've seen it in so many teams, and for teams that really have capitalized that and seen exactly what they need to do, then they really get successful. I'll give you an example from the teams that you're familiar with. In a team like Liverpool, that player in that midfield, I think Vitz is the new player that is really holding that middle central role. Saboslai was really doing it now. He was shifted into the right back position because of the injuries that they have, but he's one of the few players that does it comfortably in there. Then in Arsenal, you have Martin Odegaard. You see his performances are really, if at all he's not on spot, Arsenal lose it out because you don't have the player to hold that ball. Bruno Fernandes was supposed to be doing it in Manchester United, but I don't think he does it perfectly. There are a lot of other players in other teams that do it, and you have in that Chelsea team, you have that their number 10. I'm forgetting this young boy's name, but you really want that player that can hold that ball and create things out of nothing. And I really think that the Harambee Stars are really lacking that. They need to learn from that. And there's also a lot of talk of course, why some of the players in Chan were not integrated in that team. Of course, to play as fast starters, not just to come into the game. I think it has been around the media in Kenya. A lot of people have come out and talked about why, of course, their coach could not go with the tried and tested method. Of course, he's not been there long, but he has had players that have been together in the Chan tournament and they know exactly what to do. So, I attribute it to another issue because inexperience is one of the few things that you cannot use, especially on the international scene. Most of these locally based players, yet they might play together as a team, but when it comes to international football, some moments need the knowledge that comes with international football. And Gambia had a lot of experienced players, which include Musa Barrow and Yakuba Minte, who really pushed everything, and they really gave Kenya a very hard time. And Kenya has young players very promising. I think Ryan Ogam, who scored the goal, as well as Joba Cheng, who made a debut They are really very good players. Some of the few that are really getting into that national team. But really, the maturity in that game was really needed because some composure, some understanding of the game is really. Yes, they lost the game, but you would say that if at all they had more mature players. And I saw something. I think I'll go personal on this. I saw one of the panelists. He was on KTN. He was talking about how these so-called foreign players, some of them play in Uganda here, some of them play in Tanzania. And the way he said it was a little bit more disrespectful.
You cannot make that excuse that you have stage fright. I mean, they played at Chan, okay? These foreign-based players, quote unquote, even those who play in Uganda, if at all there's what made by his argument, I don't think that that should actually count.
The issue is not about where you play from. The issue is how do you develop your game. And I thought he was trying to throw one to their neighbors, trying to show them, but the country is throwing at having not a good league, having players playing around Tanzania, Kenya, and all the other countries around East Africa, managed to score and win 4-0 against some of the best players. Yes, Uganda had some players from Europe, players who have played in big teams, some playing in in teams in Scotland. But to me, that does not really matter. It is the way you grow up and go up to the task. So that is why really I noticed that and I said I'll say something about it. It was a little bit more disrespectful. The way he said it was very disrespectful. But all the same, that is what really happened. But one of the things that I really think that they need to do, they need to learn how to manage their game. Game management in some of the instances is one of the few things that they need to really work on. First of all, they look like they were panicking after conceding instead of staying organized. That is a sign of immaturity, and that is a sign of lack of composure and leadership on the pitch. Because sometimes some of the experienced players, or with age, as well as because experience is two-way. It is age and it's about where you play your game. You need to really you need to have those players that stand out and start telling the others to really calm down, get that ball. Whenever there is, when you see young players starting to panic, your duty as a mature player is to hold them back and tell them, you know what, when you feel you're in pressure, give the ball back to me. I'll know what to do with it. And that player really would learn to be comfortable and know that there's someone they can trust on the pitch. It's also the lack of game management also was seen in the way they managed transitions. They allowed Gambia to go all the way and control the game, especially in transitions, which really, really was not very good, especially if you're playing against a team with a lot of European best players. And of course, that is also another issue, tactical discipline, because if you don't have the ability to control the game, especially when you're under pressure, to me, it shows a lot of the inexperience in your game and leadership. So that was also seen in there. Of course, we are not going to say that it's the end of the road for Kenya. We all know that, yes, they're out of mathematically, they don't look like they can come back and go all the way to the World Cup. But when you look at what they need to do, they need to really focus more on investing in the youth. Youth development is something that they need to work on, but not only developing them, but tactically, they need to usher them into the modern game. They need to understand what to do, give them a lot of exposure. They need to learn how this talent comes up, not only coming up, but they need to find a way of exposing them to the modern game. The tactics really need to be modern tactics. They need to learn and study what is done elsewhere, because you will notice that the trend of playing from the back is something that was introduced by some teams just like 10 years back. But a lot of teams in the last 3 years are picking it up and understanding that it's not about throwing the ball into that midfield and kicking the ball whenever you have the goalkeeper having a goal kick. You need to start the ball. You need to play the ball. You need to own it. You need to make it user friendly to you. You need we used to play and they used to tell us that let the ball be your friend. Don't just kick it and throw it away. Go and enjoy it, enhance it, and romance it as well, because you need to really understand that this is what you can. The more you can do something with the ball, the more you can really create yourself chances and be able to manage the game very well. So I think that is one of the few things that needs to be done in grassroots. Then, of course, the new talent and blending it with experience is something that they need. I've seen a lot of people coming out and arguing about him introducing a lot of the senior players. I think Kenyans didn't like that, but I don't really think it's the right time to really criticize Benny McCarthy. He really has a lot to learn, and every game that comes his way will be a learning experience. He has not had a chance to have a competitive game with the national team, especially the team that is going to be playing those big games like the World Cup qualifiers, having a mixture of locally based as well as international players. So it's a learning curve, and he needs to learn which country he's coaching, because you all know that Kenya is a high pressure team. Kenya is the England of East Africa. Everything will go to the papers, everything will go to the tabloids, everything will go to the podcasts, and he will be scrutinized, he will be called a lot of things. But I think he needs to focus, and I actually think that the Federation is also backing him up, because it was their decision to employ him. They know why they want him. Now they need to stick with him. They need to understand how to make him work. But I should say congratulations to Uganda Cranes. They showed maturity with a mixture of the players that are coming in from some players like Mobiru. I'm forgetting the other name. I don't know how to mention it. Of course, having Nigerian descent and Ugandan descent, they came out and really outperformed a lot of the Mozambique players. It was a mixture of experience, maturity, and then believing in themselves, because if at all they didn't do so, then they would not be winning that game. Tanzania as well performed very well, but now it is up to Kenya. It is not the end of the road. The African Cup of Nations is coming, so they need to regroup, reorganize themselves, and make themselves better. Thank you so much for being part of Magnetic Sports. My name is Brian, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.